Game 82 on the regular season slate for the Boston Bruins tonight as they host the Ottawa Senators to wrap up the season. Linus Ullmark going to get the start and goal. Puck drop coming your way in an hour. Joe Surratt and Bob Beers going to have the call starting at 6:30 with the Duncan Bruins pregame here on 98.5 The Sports Hub. Longtime Bruins broadcaster Jack Edwards announced his retirement after the postseason. He said in part in a statement that he put out, "I recently decided the time has come for me to finish my shift as the voice of the Boston Bruins. I am no longer able to attain the standards I set for myself to honor the fans, players, Bruins organization, and Nesson with the best they all deserve." Red Sox continue their 4-game series with Cleveland tonight. They'll be without Tyler O'Neill, who's in the concussion protocol after colliding with Rafael Devers yesterday. Garrett Whitlock gets the start, first pitch, 7:10. Hall of Fame manager Whitey Herzog has died at age 92. ESPN reporting the Milwaukee Bucks preparing to be without Giannis Antetokounmpo for the start of the Eastern Conference first-round series against the Pacers, but they are hopeful that treatment on Giannis's left calf strain will allow him to return sometime later in the series. NBA play-in tournament starts with the Western Conference games tonight. You get the Lakers and Pelicans at 7:30, followed by the Warriors and Sacramento Kings at 10 p.m. Headlines are brought to you by Cross Insurance, known for building winning partnerships with teams of all sizes, the official insurance broker of the Red Sox, Bruins, and Patriots. Visit crossagency.com. Cross Insurance, your team, your choice. I'm Jim Murray for Boston's Home for Sports, 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Pastrnak got that shot away. Pastrnak shoots his head.
Hi, this is David Pastrnak.
Pastrnak for the low laser.
And you're listening to 98.5 The Sports Hub.
You have dog crap in your system.
This is the Baseball Hour with Tony Maz.
They did nothing this offseason.
Brought to you by Bigelow Tea, Corona, Gravely Zero-Turn Lawnmowers, Jackson Lumber, Team Impact, Blue Moon Belgian White, and FindMassMoney.gov on 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Ultimately, we felt it was essential to listen to the fans of today, to identify the areas of greatest consensus, and to move closer to the best version of the game simply by giving fans more of what they like and less of what they dislike, and for more action overall. So fans want to see more stolen bases, more triples and doubles, more plays with multiple players in action. Fans want less dead time, less of anything that slows down the pace of play and pace of action.
Okay, that is Theo Epstein just a couple of years ago when baseball was talking about implementing the pitch clock, changing some of the rules of the game, and in fact implemented some of those changes, including faster pace, bigger bases, more running, all of which has happened. This is where we're going to start tonight on the Baseball Hour, and I'll say this quickly. We have an abbreviated program again tonight. The Bruins are playing their regular season finale, which we will carry here on 98.5 The Sports Hub. Pre-game starts at 6:30 with Judd Surratt and Bob Beers. The game itself begins at 7 p.m., We will have all of that for you right here on 98.5 The Sports Hub. And given that the Red Sox played an 11 a.m. game yesterday, which we were able to address at least in some way, shape, or form last night, and frankly, nothing has happened from then to now, I'm certainly willing to take any and all calls from you regarding the Red Sox. So if you have anything you want to say here, by all means, this, what I'm about to tell you or talk about really is not any sort of preemptive measure. If you want to get in on the Red Sox, you can. But I'll just start here. Again, that's a comment from Theo Epstein a couple of years ago talking about, Jimmy, do you have the exact date on that by any chance? Was that
September 10th, 2022.
Okay, 2022. So about a year and a half ago, talking about giving the game back to the fans. And this popped into my head today because, frankly, I think that it's hard to get too excited about anything we've witnessed from the Red Sox thus far. They lost yesterday 6-0. They're 9-8. Frankly, I think overall, minus the first few days, they've become something of a bore. And I would say that overall, and it's a dangerous thing for me to say in this particular spot, I'll get over it, but this is how I feel today. Meanwhile, the game itself isn't exactly doing anything to inspire any faith. It's a little bit better. So there were two things I want to get to today. One is some more comments made recently by Kenley Jansen about the pitch clock. This was done in an interview or discussion with Rob Bradford of our competitors. So, and I don't criticize Rob for it. It really bugs me more what Jansen said, which we'll get to. But I read this, and I'll tell you what, before I even read it, let me ask you this. Jimmy, what has been, and I ask this to the listeners as well, if I were to say to you, what has been the most productive and encouraging part of the Red Sox operation thus far? And when I say that, I mean offense, defense, relief pitching, starting pitching. What has been the one thing that you would say, well, that's been a pleasant surprise. It's better than I thought?
The pitching staff.
Starting pitching.
The starting pitching staff.
Okay,
yeah.
Starting pitching, and I would agree. Okay, I would agree. Starting pitching. The Red Sox, overall, rank first in the major leagues in ERA. First in the majors. I was having a conversation with somebody the other day, meaning they have the best ERA in the American League. And I was having a conversation with somebody the other day who said, yeah, but, it'll be interesting to see what happens going forward starting next year. And I said, what do you mean? They said, well, the rule's going to change about how many pitchers you can have on your pitching staff. So right now the number's 13. The number's going to go down to 12. Rob Manfred has already indicated that he was leaning this way, that next year they're going to cut the number of pitchers on the staff to a maximum of 12. So this got my wheels spinning. The Red Sox, as good as they have been in the early part of this season, starting pitching, first in ERA, ranked 12th in innings pitched, which doesn't jibe. The Red Sox have been really good at the start of games. They're still only going 5 innings. It's not like they're going deep into games. So the Red Sox have played 17 games. They've pitched 89 innings. That is quite literally like 5 1/3. And it's almost perfectly that number. 5 innings comes, Cora gets his guy out of the game. The other day, he wanted Brian Bayo to go more than 5. Garrett Whitlock went 4 1/3 and threw it 101 pitches. This is not going to cut it. Now, look, overall, they haven't given up a lot of runs, but when you look at the starting pitching and you say they should be better than 9 and 8 if they're pitching at that level. And before you tell me that the defense is the reason, and the defense is part of it, the other part of it is that the starting pitchers are only pitching about half the game. The relievers haven't been all that great either. Kenley Jansen's a high wire act in the 9th. We'll get to him in a minute. But reading this story that I stumbled on, and this was actually printed a couple of months ago, about the potential changes coming and pitchers' inability to go deep into games. And by the way, that's a baseball problem. That's not just a Red Sox problem. Listen to this. And again, I start with this paragraph, but just bear with me. The state of starting pitching has the attention of MLB Commissioner Rob Manfred, who said in October that the league is considering lowering the maximum of 13 pitchers per team to 12, possibly as soon as 2025, with the goal of placing a greater emphasis on starting pitchers. Now, I think this is a good thing, but here's the problem. Because years ago, you would look at a game, the first thing you would look at was the pitching matchup. And you would buy a ticket to a game going, you know what? I get to see Pedro tonight, or I get to see Schilling tonight, or I get to see Josh Beckett or John Lester or Roger Clemens, or take any other pick that you want. Whoever your guy was, you got to see that guy, and you got to see him for the majority of the game. Now, Jimmy, quick, without looking, who's pitching for the Red Sox tonight?
Carter Crawford?
Garrett Whitlock. Nobody knows anymore because, frankly, it doesn't matter. So listen to this. Last year, big league starters averaged 15.4 outs per game, 5 innings, 5 1/3, and 85.1 pitches. So they average 5 1/3 innings and 85 pitches. And by the way, the pitch count is high for the number of innings. The number should be about 10 pitches lower, which makes sense because you know what? It slowed the game down. The game has been slowed down, and I hate to go off on the analysts about this, but this is what they've done. Just give me 5. Air it out for 5, and then we'll go to the bullpen. So the games that are taking 240 this year should still be faster if the starters were going a little bit deeper in the game. Now listen to this. And that's according to a site called Sports Radar. Those numbers are virtually identical to what they were in 2022. But in 2015, which is less than 10 years ago, pitchers went 17.4 outs in a game, which is almost 6 innings. And as recently as 2000, which now we're going back there, in 20 years, pitchers used to go closer to 6 full innings a game. And that doesn't sound like much of a difference. It is. It's a huge difference. It's taken away from the fan experience because you've got nobody to root for. The pitchers are all pissed off. Why do you think Jordan Montgomery only got $25 million over 1 year? You know what the answer is? Because starting pitching isn't worth spending on anymore. So it's another way for the owners to cut costs. It's really all it is. They've worsened the entertainment product. They've cut costs in the game. And it all keeps going in that direction, and to me has made it a worse and less enjoyable product for everybody out there. Do the Red Sox have the guys that are going to be able to handle a rotation going forward, or a staff with 12 people on it where they're going to have to go 6 innings into the game? And let me just tell you this. If this is all some sort of step in that direction, if the Red Sox are actually trying to condition their staff so that they'll be ready for the transition next year when they're going to ask starters to go 6 innings and maybe even a little bit more than that, fine, no problem. Because absent a playoff team and World Series championship, which I'm not sure we're going to get, at least they would be trying to build something for the future. At least. So the idea that you could have the number 1 rated staff, starting rotation, in the major leagues in ERA and be a 500 team is as much a commentary on the state of the sport as it is on your defense or anything else. That is freaking sad.
Tony, one thing that they would have to learn to do again is pitch to contact. Like, you can't just go out there and max velocity and max torque and try to miss bats. You actually have to use your defense to get outs to get to the 6th and 7th inning.
So can I read you the quote that pissed me off most in this story? And
yes, of course, it's your show.
It's understandable. It's totally true, and it's understandable why this person would feel this way, but it's really kind of sad. Dave Roberts, manager of the Dodgers.
Ugh.
From a fan perspective, yeah. To see a guy in there to go 7, 8 innings, I absolutely get it. Doesn't necessarily help you win baseball games, and I'm in the business of winning games. End quote. How about that? From a fan perspective, yeah, to see a guy in there go 7, 8 innings, I absolutely get it. Doesn't necessarily help you win baseball games, and I'm in the business of winning games.
So having Pedro, Schilling, Bronson Arroyo, Tim Wakefield, and I'm missing somebody else from that 04 team.
It's stupid.
All taking their rightful turn in 2004 helped him win a World Series.
Game has changed, Jimmy. It's stupid. And you know why it's stupid? How much money did the Red Sox have to pour into it? And they had to pay relievers on top of it who were good ones. And so now you know what teams are saying? I'm not going to pay the starters anymore. I'm not giving them those contracts. And I can just shuttle relievers in and out of there. And you know what they're going to do? Mark my words. If they go to 12-man pitching staffs next year, you know what they're going to do? They are going to just cycle guys up and cycle guys down in the minor leagues every day, just like the Bruins are doing at the end of their roster for salary cap purposes. They're just going to bring up a group of relievers, have them pitch that day, send them back, bring up another group. That's how they're going to get around it. Because the idea of actually giving something to the fans and running it as an entertainment product and a competitive product is foreign. It's now all about maximizing cost. They've sucked the life out of the sport. Completely. Sucked the life out of it. No place more than here, by the way. Completely sucked the life out of it. So, I had to get that off my chest. I want to get to Kenley Jansen as well. I see a couple of you on the line. In fact, we'll take a call here right away. Martin in Texas on the Red Sox defense. Go ahead, Martin.
Hey, Tony. I think part of the problem has been, too, is how many Red Sox games have you watched this year where 5 players have played the same position throughout the whole game? That's why you got incidents happening like the other night when Rafaela almost ran into O'Neill and Devers when they were colliding. And I read an article from Ken Rosenthal and one other guy, I think it was, the last name started with an F anyway, They said that they think they're going to have more teams move to 6-man rotations once they're only allowed to carry 12 pitchers, which makes no sense mathematically. Well, you think you would carry reliever instead of an extra starter.
So, look, again, Martin, I don't know, the 6-man rotation, the possibilities are there for that, too. You have everybody go 5 innings so you can spread your bullpen out a little bit more. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. What I know it's going to suck for you. It's going to suck for the fan. I would hope, and I say that because I would hope they would lean back or transition back to something that made the starting pitchers more of a focal point in these games. Whether or not baseball wants to admit it, the star personalities, the individuals, draw eyeballs. Those people draw eyeballs. Starting pitchers commanded the game when they were out there. They were critical. They were center to the entertainment product of baseball. Those were the names on the marquee. The starting pitchers were the names on the marquee. Now that's gone too. And it's been gone. I say now they've taken it away. It's been gone for some time. And they want to wonder why the game is suffering? Particularly here. Brian Bayo can be fun to watch. He can be dominating at times. He's not going to be in the game in the 6th inning. You don't get to see him in money time. You don't even get to see him command the team. They won't even let him go through the lineup a 3rd time because some analyst determined that it's not smart. Even though years ago they would let you do that because it's how you became a better pitcher. So if Brian Bayo never fulfills his potential, you know what part of the problem is? Because they don't let him. They're not willing to suffer through the growth. Not willing to do it. We'll get to Kenley Jansen when we come back. Ottawa Senators right here on 98.5 The Sports Hub. So, and this next topic is sort of related. I just think the state of pitching in Major League Baseball, and really this relates to, the Red Sox. I was looking at it today. 1.92 ERA. The Red Sox are first in the majors in starters ERA. And they're 9-8. Because starters don't really mean as much as they used to. And we can talk about the defense and everything else. I mean, I understand that. They've lost some games because of their defense. But the bottom line is you have an ERA under 2 as a starting rotation, and you're 500. Why? And it's because part of the reason is starters don't matter like they used to. Frankly, I think the way games are pitched now, and this is hardly new. I'm not telling you any of this is new. It just bugged me today for some reason because I told you I read these stories. It kind of sucks. Everything you were taught about the game is how important pitching is. Now you pitch well for 5 innings, you're done. You're out of the game. They don't want you to face the lineup the third time through. They're going to turn it over to the bullpen. And there's no individual performance to celebrate amid the team sport. None. It really just, it has completely surgically removed the fan interest from the game. The things that a fan would like to see have been removed from the game. They've started to try to integrate some of the other stuff back in, but it's really, look at the Red Sox rotation here. Tell me who's the guy that you will stop everything to watch. Even Bale. It's kind of all over the place, doesn't really command the ball well enough. I'm not sure he'll ever hit his ceiling because they don't let him pitch through his mistakes. So is he ever going to be the guy that he could be or should be? Because they don't let him grow through it. They don't. 5's enough. That's it. Let's just raise teenagers and stop there. John in East Providence. John, go ahead.
Hey, Tony, thanks for taking my call. I was just wondering what you thought as far as these guaranteed contracts, like really hurting the quality of starting pitching because, if you take someone like Chris Sale that you're paying all this money and made, what felt like 12 starts in 4 years, you're paying them all this money. It's just kind of like, did the owners kind of buy into the Tampa Bay way because it's cheaper and people aren't making their starts? Why should I pay them?
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. I don't know if it's necessarily because of injury, because I would say the injury's always been there. I think that, frankly, at least in this market, I think the Red Sox have seen revenues go down, and they don't think they can make up the revenue anymore, so they're cutting costs. And one way to do that is to cut on pitching. Because let's face it, the pitching costs can be exorbitant and you don't get great return on it. It takes a lot of money to get a good pitching staff, and you got to develop too, but developing pitchers takes time. Teams don't want to put in the time anymore. They don't want to do that either because they certainly don't want to pay the second contract unless they can get some guy for dirt cheap. Chris in Hartford. Chris, what do you got?
Hey, man, so, I agree with you. The analytics part of it, I definitely do, okay? But the one thing that is bugging me, and it was a show improve yesterday in that Red Sox game, I can call up your station and have a guy answer a phone call, give me the whip, give me all these different spin locations, all this. But if I ask a simple question, I can't get the right answer. On that play, Rafaela at the end of the game, they asked him, what happened? He goes, Devers and O'Neill called for the ball at the same time. The shortstop is the priority. He is there to call off Devers, and then O'Neill calls him off because the people that are even at your station, not saying you, Maz, you're a baseball man, the analytics, they worry about that, but they never caught a ball and they don't know about priority on whose ball is it. And Rafaela, as you watched, he should have been calling that off, and O'Neill called him off. That's real baseball. We need to get back to that. Stop hiring these young kids that just look at computers, Mazzy, all right?
Okay, yeah, Chris, thanks for the call. I mean, you gave me a lot there to sort of a lot of different directions. I'll leave it at the 2 players instead of the 3. The outfielder's coming in. He calls for the ball. The third baseman gets out of the way. Okay, and again, I understand Rafaela was part of that equation, but the 2 guys who collided were the outfielder and the third baseman. The outfielder calls him off, get out of the way. Cora says they couldn't hear each other. Sometimes the collisions happen. Sometimes they happen. Okay, it can get loud in those stadiums. I don't think Fenway's all that loud anymore, but so be it. I just want to give you this quick on Kenley Jansen, again, who did an interview with Rob Bradford of WEEI. And Jansen's still bitching about the pitch clock. And this is the comment that got me. You're not giving your body a chance to recover, he says. I'm not saying be out there 30 seconds between every pitch, even though he was one of the slowest pitchers in baseball before they put in the pitch clock. He was out there 30 seconds between pitches. But that aside, I'm not saying to eliminate the pitch clock either, he says, but why so rushed? 15 seconds and 18 seconds instead of having 20 seconds no matter what, men on base or men not on base, and have a pitcher step off once or twice to catch his breath? Catch his breath. Is it possible that Kenley Jansen's just out of shape? That he's a whale on the mound and that he's out of shape? Is that possible? So again, this goes back to a different time when pitchers were supposed to be in shape and would throw the ball every 15 or 20 seconds and could go 7 or 8 because they had some wind to them. So how is it that we've advanced as a society to the point where we understand all these health issues and how to break record times in marathons and races and whatever to improve our wind and our stamina, and baseball pitchers are going the other way? Can you explain that one to me? Could it just be that you don't like the pitch clock because you are catching your breath and you're fat? Is that possible? Jansen says you can tell any bodybuilder when they go to competitions or whatever, or when they're doing their lifting, cut their 2-minute break in between by 30 seconds. What do you think's going to happen, he says? If you're going to deadlift or do whatever and you've got 5 or 6 reps, and then instead of taking a minute 30...